Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I thank our witnesses for appearing here today. Do either of our witnesses, can you comment on why the origin of SARS-CoV-2 would be important?
Well, we need to figure out how this pandemic started so that we can put measures in place to prevent the next one. There will be another coronavirus outbreak or spillover that could potentially lead to the pandemic. Let's figure out how it happens so that we can stop that.
And Dr. Anderson?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's first of all, it's the natural thing to do. We're all humans. We want to understand what happened here. And I think from that perspective itself, I think it's important. But as Dr. Gary said, is that the ability to take corrective action and understand what specifically led to this pandemic so we can hope to do better and prepare better for future ones is an important one.
Thank you. And the reason I wanted you to state that on the record is because of comments within your testimony and comments of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Since the pandemic, I am also a physician. I'm a former director of the Iowa Department of Public Health. We had a hearing on origins with the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic in 2021. And from the time we were looking at origins, I have said specifically, the reason it's important to understand the origins is not to undermine scientists, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's not a political hoax, it is for 3 reasons. And those 3 reasons are to prevent and respond to the next pandemic. 1, the international community and scientists in particular have a vested interest in understanding what type of laboratory research is done and what type of laboratory safety. Critically important. Number 2, disclosure. The international community has a vested interest in disclosure occurring properly and within 24 hours if, in fact, there is a virus or bacteria that's released that could lead to a pandemic. And then number 3, the ethics of what kind of research is done and in what laboratories, and if we have assurances that those laboratories and those scientists can be trusted. So my colleague mentioned that it was natural to have collaboration and to get information from various scientists around the world, and I would agree with that. Did you have collaboration and consensus and readily available data from the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
Only what was in the public domain.
Dr. Gary?
Same answer.
Okay. I would also like to point out that when you have a phone call and 4 days later a paper is presented, and as you said, you're looking at data, when did you put the paper up submit it for publication?
17th of February.
Okay, but yet there was changes to that paper or changes, as you both have said and stated within your testimony, that you got information which led you to believe that it was improbable or that a laboratory leak was not available. So it seems to me the paper was constructed and then sent for publication, and then data came out after that. So specifically, in reference to the paper, one of the referees said there are 2 recent reports about coronavirus in pangolins. The authors might want to comment on these. Dr. Anderson, you stated, we have included these references as well as several others that have investigated pangolin CoV. In addition, we should point out that these additional pangolin CoV sequences do not further clarify the different scenarios discussed in our manuscript. There is nothing in these reports that changes our statements regarding a potential role of pangolins. Then you also, a second referee asked another question that says, they're surprised that you did not hypothetically refute a lab origin. And once the authors publish their new pangolin sequences, a lab origin will be extremely unlikely. Your response was, our manuscript is written to explore the potential origins of SARS-CoV-2. We do not believe it is speculative. Unfortunately, the newly available pangolin sequences do not elucidate the origins of SARS-CoV-2 or refute a lab origin. Hence, the review is incorrect on this point. There is no evidence on present data that pangolin CoVs are directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet, in your paper, you dispute and consider highly improbable, supposedly having new data and information, highly improbable that SARS-CoV-2 emerged through laboratory manipulation. I'm not suggesting that laboratory manipulation was deliberate or was a bioterrorism, but by your own statements, Dr. Anderson, it seems to me that you're actually saying that it's inconclusive whether or not this emerged accidentally or on purpose from a laboratory, or if there was a manipulation, or if it came from science, despite the thousands of animals that have been looked at to see if it could have emerged. I think my time is up, and I think it's what we're finding today is that it's not as conclusive as you would like us to believe that it emerged through nature. Thank you, and I yield back.